11-step grayscale actual cutting, taping, double tacking, and presentation assembly part of the grayscale assignment. So if I want to take this design that I made, which frankly is a pretty lame design, but it's acceptable, but I'm doing it just for the interests of speed, so I can just do this quickly and get out of the way. If you want to do something like this is beautiful. It's like a chain looking kind of thing. Yes, the cutting involved would be, it would be kind of complex. You have to be really patient. And again, as John said, if you screw up, like that swatch is toast. So be really careful. Like once you're doing this, make sure you plan out everything you do. Measure, you've heard the term maybe, measure twice, cut once, measure 10 times, because you only get to cut once. Make sure it's exactly the size and shape that you want it to be, okay? So it's going to go on something like this, roughly, and I'm just going to decide that ruler. Anybody have a ruler I can use? Yeah. Oh, there's one underneath here with the magnets on it. Cool. So I'm going to say, for the sake of argument, it is going to be straight. So I'm doing this. This is a test. Okay, I'm doing this on the back of a used piece, so this might be a good reason to save your leftover window. You doing it on a used piece just to get a straight line. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm looking at this and I'm thinking already how I want to measure it. So this is going to be 2 inches, and let's say this top part's only 1. Okay, so I'm going to and the height of the swatch should be 1 inch. So I'm going to measure down this way. And I'm just going to do a couple for you guys, but like 1, 2, 3, so that like that. Then I'm going to measure this way, and it's going to be 2 inches here and 1 inch on top. Now, when you do this for real, you're not going to be doing what I'm doing right now, because then there would be all these pencil marks on your presentation board. I'm showing you how to lay it out so that you can get all the swatches arranged in a way that you don't need to have this, because they're already pre-cut and everything is fine. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that in a minute. These are just sample leftover swatches. I'm assuming they're all about 2 inches. Let's see, I'll just grab these two guys because they're different. One's really light and one's darker. So I'm going to measure, make sure it's 1 inch. It is. Okay. Make sure it's 2 inches. It's as you know, it is exactly 2 inches. Okay. So actually, I don't need to measure on the bottom at all. I just need to measure here. Like I just know that it's going to be 1 inch here, 1 inch here, and I know it's already at 2 inches width. So I can just leave that part alone. At the top, if it's going to be 2 inches here, then I want it to be centered. Okay, so at the top, I'm going to see it's 2 inches. See that? And I'm just going to measure right here, like that, and then measure out 1/2 inch on either side, like that. Okay. Now, what I want to do is, again, I'm using the ruler. Okay, and I'm going to cut the swatch that way. So what I want to do is use my very sharp nail. You've got to have spare blades for this part. Okay, when you're cutting the final 11 swatches, you've got to have a sharp blade. And so have spares ready to go. If this gets dull, you don't want ragged edges on your swatches. I'll notice it, and execution is a part of the grade. So I'm just going to make this thing 2 inches. Okay. Again, I'm going to cut in a little. This time I'm cutting away because I want to cut in just a little bit. Take your time. Don't wait till the last minute on this, you guys. Don't. Because if you try to rush this, it's going to look like shit. So I know it's 2 inches wide. I'm going to cut from the corner to the 1 inch marker. Again, I'm being very careful. I would hope that you guys would be more careful, because again, this is just for demo purposes. And I know it's kind of a boring design, but you guys will come up with genius solutions to this. And I'm just following the little, make sure that the marks you make with the pencil are very small, because I don't want to see those either. There's one. Okay, great, 11 to go. Now, I know that it's going to fit on here. Not quite. So, no, it's a little tall. So I'm like, okay, no problem. I'll just trim it. Here and here. I probably measured a little bit off. So I just trim it. No big deal. Make sure it's straight. There we go. And again, I'm doing all this on the back side. There we go. That'll work. That'll fit. Okay. Now I'm going to do another one. And I'm going to do these, try to do these a little quicker. 1 inch. 1 inch. Now you have two methods of taping these down. And I have a preference, and I'll tell you what my preference is, and it may not be yours. Generally, when students do this, half of them use the double tack, that's what this is. And hang on. Okay, cutting this into the square like that. Again, going to measure. Okay, 2 inches, 2 inches. Measure in an inch. And an inch. Okay. And Selena, can you pull out your double tack for me again? I cut this little strip off of the sheet that you loaned me. I just want to show everybody what it looks like in your kit. It looks like that. It's like these big sheets of rolled up stuff. Basically what double tack is, it's just tape. It's a giant, think of it as a giant piece of clear double-sided tape. You also have strips, rolls of Ichiban double-sided tape that you can use instead. Whatever you guys want to do. Okay, and like I said, my students generally go half and half, and I can't tell the difference, usually, if they do a good job. It's like, I'm like, who used double tack? And half the students are like, we did. The other half used double-sided tape. I don't care what you use, whatever your comfort zone is. I prefer the double tack mainly because I like knowing that the double tack covers the entire sheet, the entire piece of the swatch. Okay. Now, this is what I'm doing. I'm making sure these things are all going to fit together. Okay. Now, whether or not they exactly fit onto my measurement doesn't really matter that much because you're not going to see this. You will only line up on the presentation side of the board what you absolutely need to, so that I don't see it. I want it to look effortless, and I know that it's not. You have to plan this very well. So you're going to have to measure carefully and basically draw a line. For my design anyway, if you're doing something else, it might be a different approach. But for this, you're just drawing a line very lightly, and these will cover everything up. You don't need to draw these. You already used this to measure these. What you want to do is make sure that, John, can you hand me that? I've got blue tape in my bag. You want to make sure, first of all, you always want to make sure you keep this thing covered so it's safe. Blue tape, it's in my black bag, I think. It should be in the side pocket, or it's out on the table somewhere sitting there. Thank you. Now, this is what you want to just lightly tape the whole thing together. Obviously, I only have two pieces together. Once you have everything cut out, lightly, like just with a little bit of blue tape, tape them together to make sure that everything fits perfectly. And because it's only blue tape, it's not that sticky, okay? And you're sure that when you finally do tape it down for real, there are no gaps between the shapes. They line up perfectly. I don't see any of the white through the board, okay, of the board showing through. So that looks fine. If they all tape together fine, just with the blue tape, you're ready to go. All you need is a guideline and just tape them down one at a time, and you should be fine because you've already measured, you know where the center line's going to be, and they will all fall into place. But first, you must make sure, okay, before you tape anything down to the board permanently, that you know that all 11 of them are going to fit together exactly the way you want them to. Once they do, you should be absolutely fine. Like everything should be, once they fit like this, you know, take the tape off, double side tape them, and they're going to fit just fine on here. Okay, but don't do anything till you know that that works. This is double tack. It's a giant piece of tape. So you can, I'm going to do one with double tack, and I'm going to do one with the Ichiban stuff. Ichiban stuff, I already removed this, okay? This is me. I don't like, okay, I think it's got a little, like, cutting thing. Okay, I don't get it. So I'm sorry I'm doing this to your tape. I always have my tape out in rolls. If it comes on some dispenser, I just pull it off. Like, what do you need this for? Oh, because it has the little cutting thing. I'm like, and I tease you guys about being weak. It's like, really? Like, you can't take a piece of tape and tear it with your bare friggin' hands? It's tape, okay? I mean, it's not like, oh, I can't tear it. It's like, you don't need a cutting thing. Screw that, okay? The great thing about the double tack and the double-sided tape is it has a backing surface, so it's only sticky on one side. If you use the like Scotch double-sided tape, it's always sticky on both sides. It's hard to use, gets dirty, etc. So if you want to use the double-sided tape, and I'll do it on this one, you want to make sure it goes edge to edge. And yes, am I going off the edge? I am. Okay, so watch. So I'm going off the edge, but I don't want it, you don't want it just in the middle. You don't want a little piece in the middle because then it'll curl up. See how already it's kind of curling up like a little taco?